Hey gang, for a moment I want you to consider elementary school kids. If you think about elementary school and the primary grades, you've got these kids that are coming to class, right? Well, this poor student who's got to go to school for the next who knows how many years. Who registers that, or who comes up with a list of students that are valid students to be in a particular class? Is it the teacher? Does the teacher come up with that list? The teacher's given that list, right? They don't come up with it. Well, it must come from a higher level authority then. So it must come from, let's say, the principal, right? Does the principal of the school or the headmaster, do they come up with the list of students that are going to be there at that school? Well, actually, no, they don't come up with that list either. They receive that list from a higher authority, essentially a school district, right? So you've got parents registering their kids with the school district who then tell the parents where their kids are going to school in that district, which then means the principals receive the list of those valid students, which is then passed down to the teachers who know which students are going to be in their class for any particular grade. And in the same way, gang, we don't have our clients getting authenticated as valid users when they log on by their access point. And in fact, most of the time, we don't even use local EAP and have them be authenticated by the controller or converged device. Instead, we're going to work our way up to a AAA service. We're going to use centralized authentication, authorization, and accounting. That's AAA. We're going to do so by utilizing what's generically known as Radius services. And the specific implementation of Radius that we're focusing on here, of course, is ICE, right? The Identity Services Engine, because that's Cisco's brand of Radius centralized support. But certainly, we could be using a network policy server from Microsoft, a Linux flavor of Radius, and they will all function essentially the same. So the ICE server is going to have an IP address. And the wireless control module of our converged device is also going to have an IP address. In order to support this Radius process, these devices are going to have to be aware of each other ahead of time. They have to trust each other. And the way that they do that is the Radius server defines a Radius client that it knows ahead of time will be asking for authentication. And so we'll specify the valid IP address of the wireless control module first. We will identify also things like a shared secret that is going to be used to validate that it's not just coming from the right IP address, but it really is it's been configured correctly. Locally, we see here in the configuration of the wireless controller in AAA services under Radius servers, we create Radius server identities. We can create one or more. We label it and we give it we identify the IP address, the shared secret, and of course the default ports are there, 1812 and 1813, but if we're using different ports, we would associate those correctly. So there's this kind of crossover between these two devices. And recognize that if I have multiple instances of ISE or network policy servers or any form of Radius, I can create actually a group of them. So that's our next step, is to actually create our server group for Radius. And that way, now or in the future, if I want to add additional Radius servers for authentication, I don't have to itemize them. I can simply use groups. Groups are always great for being able to move into the future with few changes because it acts as a junction table between the clients and the servers, right? There's this group that we can work with. Also provides a mechanism for failover. So here in the configuration, AAA, server, groups, Radius, we create a group, in this case called ICE group, and we keep it real simple. Basically, all we have to do is all of the available Radius servers will already be here. We throw them over here to the right. We're ready to go. We've got a group now. So I've got that group. Now, notice that we can go to managing our configuration for AAA authentication, and instead of saying that I want to do 802.1x local, I'm going to do 802. I'm going to do the .1x 802.1x, and I'm going to utilize the group. Group of what? Group of servers. Now, do I know that that group only contains one server right now? Yeah, that's not a big deal. That's okay. That configuration still works, and it means it's extensible. Right? But we bind to the group, not directly to the server in this configuration. And then you'll see here in our configuration for AAA, looking at our method lists, All right, we're going to specify this. Again, we are using the .1x system authentication control, so that's still available, but we're not using local authentication or authorization. Again, we're passing the buck to the Radius server. That's what enables this functionality to work correctly. Then, when it comes to our wireless LAN, right? So here's our SSID for called WLANs. And in security, of course, we're using WPA, WPA2, and we are using WPA2 policy, right? Skipping the WPA. And then under authentication key management, we're using .1x. Great. So then when we look at the AAA server that we're using, authentication method is not going to be, of course, local. Instead, it's our ISE list. The ISE list being the method list that supports the pointer to the ISE group, which of course supports the pointer to the ISE server, which we have already created a reciprocal account. I'm an official client, and that server is ready to receive me. And therefore, I'm able to forward the authentication requests all the way up from the client to the access point to the controller to the AAA server, which may in turn even forward it one step further to a centralized directory such as Active Directory or another lightweight directory source, whatever is necessary. Again, the great thing is Radius servers have all sorts of components that they can interrelate with. And again, the expectation is we don't need to put all those in the controller. We forward it to a service that's good at doing that particular job. So this is what it looks like to go through the graphical interface and configure your your converged wireless LAN controller for EAP Radius authentication.